Welcome to this week's Whiteboard Wednesday. Last time I talked about the two keys to long-term progress. One of them is consistency, the other is sustainability. Consistency is fairly straightforward since it just is showing up and doing the work. Sustainability is a little bit more complicated, and there are multiple pieces that go into developing a sustainable program. And the first piece that I want to talk about today is frequency, so frequency of training. Now typically when we talk about frequency, that's going to vary depending on the individual, where they're at, if they're a beginner or if they're advanced, and also what their sport-specific needs are. So if they're an endurance athlete, they're only going to be lifting probably twice a week because they have so much other sport-specific work that they need to accomplish. Now if they're a CrossFitter, a competitive CrossFitter, if they're competing in some other sort of strength sport, they may be training 4 or 5 days lifting 4 or 5 days a week. So for someone who's just starting out, 2 to 3 days a week of lifting is perfectly adequate. Any more than that really isn't necessary. It's going to cause excessive soreness, and it's just not doing them a whole lot of good. So 2 to 3 days a week of lifting, but you'll want to do some low-intensity aerobic work every day of the week. Now for more advanced lifters, that's going to depend. Like I said, they may be training and actually lifting 4, 5, 6 days a week. So it just depends. But when we talk about frequency, we want to differentiate between frequency of training and frequency of testing. And I wrote about the difference between training and testing in an article that's on our website, the Comprehensive Strength website. And training is what's going to allow you to actually improve. It's accumulating volume of movements, volume of work. And testing is actually testing to make sure that you're improving. So it's testing a specific energy system, it's testing a specific time period of work, a specific lift. And so that's your way of actually monitoring improvement. Now for beginners, frequency of testing can be much higher because they're not going to be able to tax their bodies enough to need significant rest between each test. So for beginners, they can test different lifts, different energy systems, whatever the case may be, once or even multiple times every week. So if you're testing a specific lift or a specific movement, we use different movements in our assessments, and you can test for beginners those movements every single week, and you will see improvement from week to week because they have a lot of room to grow at the beginning there. Frequency of training might be a little bit lower. It's still going to be more than the testing, but it's going to be a little bit more of an even ratio. Now the more advanced an individual gets, the more they're going to be taxing their body whenever they do any sort of testing, whether it's testing a rep max on a squat or whether it's doing a specific run for time. And so testing is going to be much more infrequent. For intermediates, it may be once a month. For really advanced people, they may only be testing any sort of movement or energy system or workout once every 6 months, maybe even once a year. And training is going to make up the vast majority of the time that they actually spend in the gym or on the track or anywhere else. Training, building volume, and another reason that they're going to be testing so infrequently is because the rate of progress that they're going to experience is going to be much slower. And so testing every week isn't going to actually tell you anything because there's not going to be any improvement from week to week. So you have to test much more infrequently. Training frequency is going to be much higher relative to testing frequency. And training frequency in general is going to be much higher than it would be for a beginner. So that's just a brief intro into frequency, and we'll get into some more areas of sustainability and creating a sustainable program in next week's episode. See you next time.